So let's have another conversation. Today I'm sat with my mum. Do you
Hello.
want to introduce yourself and tell the people who you are?
Yeah, I'm Paula, Malachi and Josie's mum. That's who I am. And this is, who are you? What's your name?
Joseph. And how old are you, Joseph? Right,
26.
26. So we're here today to discuss autism
Okay.
and how the government have improved on the way they deal with it compared to how they used to deal with it back when Joseph was obviously a younger kid. So to start us off, when did you first notice and what age was he at when you started noticing changes in his behaviour?
Right. Then I have to go back to when he was 18 months old.
Right.
Because that was, I'll tell you what happened actually. Is that okay?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what
go.
happened
Yeah,
was,
from the start.
so he was due to have his MMR, which is a measles, mumps, and rubella injection. And and that morning he was up running around as normal, playing around with his toys, eating his dinner, sat in his high chair, mama, baba, and making all happy noises, which
Yeah.
he normally did. And then it come to the time to take him for his MMR, so I got him to the doctors. They gave him his injection, and they just said he might be unwell for a couple of days due to the injection, but just give him paracetamol, Panadol,
Right.
the baby kind of one. So
Yeah.
so I took him home. He fell asleep, went to bed, and then he woke up, and he was okay. He wasn't his normal self, but he was okay. And then he went back to bed, and the following morning, it was just a completely different baby. Like he couldn't even lift his head. It was just like his eyes were just gazing to the sky, which is I thought was a bit strange. So I
Yeah.
tried to communicate with him, like, Joseph, come on, Mummy's here, and he just was nothing from him. His just head was down. He was slavering all over his face, and so I rang the doctors first of all, and I said I'm a bit concerned about my son. He had the MMR, and they said, "Oh, don't worry about it. 2 or 3 days, he'll be fine."
Yeah.
So the 2 or 3 days went by, and he wasn't fine. He was worse. He just would not talk. He would not eat, and he just went into like a cocoon of his own, and you couldn't get him out of it. So I'm not saying it was the MMR, but I believe that somehow that injection had some kind of impact on Joseph's immune system from taking the MMR. And since that time, he's struggled with communication as well as other, sad things he's had to deal with in life.
Wow.
So
Starting off strong, isn't
it's
it?
strong, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I have seen online, and a few of my friends have said that a lot of these immunizations they give to children can play with the neurology. Is that neurology? Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes it has adverse effects on them. A lot of people are against vaccinating the children.
I understand why, obviously, but and there was a social worker that I got in contact with, because obviously she was a friend of mine. She worked for the people with autism, and she said she was really concerned about the increase of autism in babies, due to she thinks it's to do with the MMR as well. So it wasn't just me, and there are lots of other parents that I know that have got kids same age as Joseph or older.
Yeah.
And again, they're saying that the MMR made an impact on their life, which is really sad because we trust this MMR, but we trust it. But then again, it's done something, another tragic on this that's now affects his whole life from beginning to end, isn't it? It doesn't go away. Autism doesn't go away. It's there forever. It might change a little bit, but it's still there.
Wow.
So
yeah. So it's mad that you said it was literally an overnight change in his behavior.
Exactly.
You wouldn't think that something would happen that quick, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. And it's like losing. I know it sounds a bit weird, but it's like losing because the happy baby that I had gone.
Yeah.
And he never came back, so that time when we had him, it was just lovely to see that happy time, but it didn't last, and then I feel guilty. Maybe I shouldn't have given him more, but we just told, aren't we? We're just adults, you got to protect your baby. He might die if you don't give him that. And you don't know it's going to happen anyway, do you?
No, you don't know. Like you said, you would expect or you'd be under the understanding that the governing bodies would do what is best. And if there was risks and they knew about it, you'd think that they wouldn't put it out there.
Exactly. But like you said, they'll still say it's, medical people say it's not the MMR, but lots of parents disagree, and so until they are willing to admit it, there's nothing we can do really, but just get on with life.
Well, that's one thing they'll never do is admit when they're wrong. That's the thing. So go on.
I was just saying maybe in about another 10 years time when this, as I still believe that autism is on the increase as well. So it's not like it's dwindling; it's still getting higher. So You know, they really need to start looking, you know. I think even in America, the Prime Minister the Prime Minister, President, sorry, yeah, he was even saying himself that he's worried about the vaccinations. So it's just England now got to take it on board, haven't they?
Yeah, they're always behind. But then again, whatever they do in America, we're not far behind, are we?
No, we're not far behind. No.
So moving on from 18 months old, what year did he start going to nursery or preschool, whatever?
So he started nursery. I think it's about 3 in them days. I think about 3 to start nursery. So I took him to the Highfield nursery where you went to the Highfield school. Yeah. So I took him there, and they said no, we can't have him because he's still in his nappies. Because of the change in his behaviour. He wouldn't even go on the potty. So that all stopped. So he's still in his nappies. When other kids at that age was not in nappies. So
yeah.
So they wouldn't take him in. So then he ended up having to go to a special needs nursery.
Okay.
Which took a bit of time to get him in there. So that's how it went on from there, really.
So was it a nursery for special needs, or was it more a nursery for disabled children, or was it a bit of both?
Both. A lot. I mean, there's people that was worse than Joseph in there, like in wheelchairs and sadly in all different, you know, it was not just about autism, it's just a whole nursery for people that can't go to a normal state school or nursery.
And in your opinion, do you think that they was adverse or had enough knowledge in autism to support him in his needs?
No. I think because of Joseph's needs, and not just Joseph, but other kids like Joseph, that was left behind in the special needs school because there's someone worse than him there. So the one that's worse gets all the attention.
Yeah.
So someone like Joseph, who's very quiet and withdrawn, will just, you know, he's left there all day, not getting any support that he needs really. So what happened was, it got to a stage where I was willing to go and volunteer to work in the nursery.
Oh, right, okay.
That's why I got myself in there, just to see what was happening with him, and you know, and I could see that so many of the kids like Josie was just left on the side, and that was, you know, more upsetting to see that because, you know, they're in nursery, you expect them to be able to do, you know, play games and have the interaction with teachers.
Yeah.
But in the special school, it wasn't happening.
Do you think because with autism, there's not many visual, I don't want to say symptoms, but there's not anything visual you can see? Not to say that there's something wrong with the child, but because you can't see like someone who's in a wheelchair or someone who has Down syndrome, or
it's noticeable, isn't it?
Because when you look at these people, you don't see there would be anything wrong. Do you think that plays a part in why they might have got left behind?
It could have been, but mainly I think also because Joseph's so quiet anyway.
Yeah.
Because they have like units, so if someone's more active and loud, they'll put them into another room where Joseph was just left in a quiet room with people like, you know, who were, like I said, in wheelchairs or who couldn't communicate at all because they won't put him in with a loud bunch because, you know, he'd been picked on in that kind of environment because he couldn't talk. So even though it was a special school, he was being picked on because he couldn't talk. So they had to put him back into this other unit, which was, you know, people a lot worse than himself.
Right, okay.
So that was upsetting to see that, but, you know, there's no other option for him. As I was saying, at the moment, there's nothing for them, nothing else they could do in that environment.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs,
so
isn't it?
It was very sad, wasn't it? But like you said, I think eventually they got more teachers coming in, like, to help out. But again, he was just left in the corner, you know, because people that are like in wheelchairs, they need like 24-hour care, don't they?
Yeah.
So it just, all little things just left there to do his own thing, and he got picked on regular, so, which was sad.
Do you remember any of this time? I know we're going back a long time, but 2, 3, 4, do you remember anything from school? Yeah, do you remember any names or faces or people? No?
No, you don't remember anyone?
No, that's fine. So what age did he attend there? So did he do the full primary school years?
So he started off in nursery, and then he went up to primary, and all the way up to secondary. So he left at 13 or 12, isn't it? When they go into the
right. So he did his full
full primary school in that units, But as he got a little bit older, they went into different section groups, and they did more things like going out into the community, going for walks, and they used to have like an heated swimming pool in there as well.
Oh, right.
Which they said to us that when your son starts, you'll be able to go into the heating pool and, you know, enjoy the environment there. But that was a lie because they never let people like Joseph in there.
Right, okay.
They only allowed the people that was in wheelchairs to use it. So again, they had things for them, but Joseph was not allowed to use it.
See, I don't
That
agree with
really
that.
upset
Yeah,
me. I
that's
know
I can
exactly.
imagine as a parent, like, all kids and all people are equal. So just
Exactly.
because they have less mobility or on the
Mm,
face of it by looking, they seem to have more disabilities. Just
I
because
know.
Joseph's and other people's aren't visible doesn't mean they don't need the same sort of support and aren't entitled to it.
Exactly. So again, it was just I was always in the school fighting on his behalf, going in complaining and, oh, Mrs. Osborne, you're back again. Yes, I am back again because I want more for my son. He has to come to this school, so I want something put in place for him. So
Yeah.
eventually they let me come in and volunteer, and they said, "But you tell us what you think he needs, and we'll work on it with you and him." So I had to go through it that way.
Right. Okay. So growing up between the ages of, let's say 3 and 9,
Mm.
how far behind? I don't want to say a normal, but an average child, how far behind would you say he was at that time?
So at the age of 3, a normal 3, so he would be about maybe 18 months, probably maybe half the age, or
Right. So would that continue up? So when he
so
was 9,
now
would you say he was
he's
about
more
4?
like 4, yeah.
Right. I get you. I
So
get you.
now he's 26, so more like maybe my age now.
Right.
So
Fair enough.
maybe that
Yeah.
kind of age we're looking at.
So did you see any development in him from the ages of 3 to 9? Did you see any progression in him, or did he just stay at the same sort of
No, he
capacity?
got worse actually because obviously he started to have epilepsy.
Right. Okay.
So that increased, which he never used to have. Up to 18 months he didn't have it, but he started about 3, the epilepsy.
Do you remember the first? I don't remember.
I
'Cause
remember the
was really
first
not- Yeah,
seizure.
go on.
Yeah, he came home from school, and I don't think you lot was at home by then. So I got a phone call saying Joseph's not well, so he's can you come and pick him up? So I went and picked him up, brought him home. He had a bit of a fever, so he just lay on the sofa. And the next minute, I just heard this like loud noise, like it's like a scream noise. It was strange. So I ran into the living room, and he was like having a seizure, a full seizure, like
Yeah.
shake and foaming
Foaming
from
at
the
the
mouth.
mouth, yeah.
And I was like, I've never seen anything like it. So I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? I thought he was dying. Like, oh my god, what do I do? So I stayed with him, but I managed to get one of the neighbours to come in and help, which was good. And like a neighbour across the road. He was a nurse, so he said, "Don't worry, he's had a seizure, and we'll stay with you through it all." And he comforted me, and then we phoned an ambulance because obviously it's his first seizure ever. So
Yeah.
and that was it. So since then, he's had maybe 9 seizures.
I can remember a few.
But
of them.
usually they're usually about 2 or 3 years between them, which is quite good. So they're not like everyday seizures.
Yeah.
But even so, it's still not nice for them, is it?
No, it's not. So what do you think caused the epilepsy and seizures?
I think it's anxiety or stress. He's always an anxious person anyway.
Right.
So I believe when being away from his mum, his environment, going to school, and the stress of school, maybe I think all these things played on his mind. Although he can't communicate,
Yeah.
he can't tell you how he's feeling. Even at 3 and 4, he can't say, "Mum, I've got a headache," or "Mum, I'm not feeling well." So I think all these things just had an impact on his health.
Yeah.
So if he's got a
understandably.
headache, you can't tell me. So I think seizures sometimes is a way of showing that something's not well.
Yeah,
It's not
it's the
well.
body's way of letting
It's
you know
letting you know that
something's not
something's
right.
not
Yeah.
well, yeah. So I think that's what's happened with him in the past. It's a bit more communicative now. Like now he'll tell me I've got a headache. But
Yeah.
it's took a long time for him to do that. So
Wow. Do you remember having any seizures? No? Do you remember how it feels after the seizure or anything? No?
you did tell me once because I asked him the same question, didn't I, Joe? And I said, "What happens when you have a seizure?" He said it's like you're going to this very dark place and you can't hear anything, but everything's just dark
Right.
and scary. So
It must be scary. I've never
Can
had
you
anything
imagine?
like that. I mean, the
I mean-
closest I've got blacking out drunk when I was younger.
Yeah.
It's the closest I've been, so.
So, and again, it's like they say it's like doing a long marathon. It takes everything out of them,
Yeah, you
So
can imagine this. The body goes through a lot,
for
doesn't it?
days, it can take up to 3 days or more for him to recover from his seizure. And then he's got bites and
Yeah.
bruises when he fell on his head or fell over on his head, and so. But luckily, he's not had one for a while, so
Good to hear, innit?
that's good, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah. So moving forward towards his high school years now.
So high school years, he went to a school called Brentwood, which again is a special needs school. There he was kind of okay. He had a few friends,
Yeah.
but again the same problem. He got picked on because he wasn't communicating. Kids like himself were biting him or pinching him. So he'd come home with bites all over his hands and on his back, and and he wouldn't tell the teachers. I'd have to ring the school the next day and say, "Why's my son got bites?" Oh, he didn't see anything happen, and so again, he wasn't really being looked after. So I think if you could, because she said if you can talk and tell us it's happening, we can do something about it. But I said, but this is a special needs school, so obviously you know that Joseph can't communicate.
Yeah.
So why are you not looking out for his needs rather than him having to come to you, which is not going to happen, is it?
No.
Again, so all through his evenings at second school, I was just like fighting on his behalf.
And it's sad to hear something like that, because if you know it's happened once or twice, you'd expect them to keep a closer eye on it. Find out who the perpetrators were, as in which children are doing it, and potentially try your best to keep them apart. You'd expect them to do something like that, but
true. But I think what happened was he does a lot of copying at that age. He was copying.
Yeah, I remember.
So if a boy would jump, then he'd jump. If a boy would shout, then he'd shout. And I think she said that he must be irritating some of the the boys that he's playing with. But I said, well, even so, but you should be looking out for this, shouldn't you? Making sure my son does not come home with bites on his back and on his hands.
Right. So would you put that down to lack of staff or lack of education on autistic children and traits?
Lack of education, like you said. I think it's lack of education, because they didn't understand about Joseph not being able to tell them.
Yeah.
I can't. Someone's bit me or someone's hurting me. Because he didn't cry either. He didn't show any emotion. If someone bites you, you're going to go, ow, aren't you?
Yeah.
Normal people would say, ow, would react to it. But he didn't show any signs of anxiety or crying. It was only when he comes home and I put him in the bath and I saw it all. I thought, oh my gosh, all these bites all over his body.
Yeah, it must have been hard for you to deal with,
Really upsetting, and I'm asking him, and he said, he told me the boy that did it, so I told the school the boy, but it wasn't nice.
No.
So
did he finish his full high school years there, or
no, he went to another school called St. John Vianney, but he had 2 years somewhere in Stretford. It is. He had 2 years there, which was a lot nicer for him in one way. They did more like outdoor activities, which Joseph liked. He likes being outdoors, and he likes gardening and stuff like that. So they did things like that with him, which was good. Do you remember St. John Vianney, Joe?
Was that the one? Was it in Chorlton? That one, or
Stretford.
Stretford.
He used to go on bike rides and all the things that Joseph liked to do. They did a little, but he was only there about a year, and then he left. He come out of school, but he wouldn't go to college because he had he then got a condition called AF, which is to do with the heart palpitations.
Right. Okay.
So he had to go on bisoprolol for that, because his heart keeps racing up. Well, his heart races up to 200 beats per minute and then goes back down to 40 beats per minute. So they put him on bisoprolol to try and calm it down. But they're saying it's linked to anxiety. So
this was all under the age of 16?
All under the age of 16, yeah.
You had a busy childhood,
hasn't he?
So right in the thick of it, weren't you? So does he still have issues with that now? Or,
yeah. He calmed down for a little while, but now it's increased again. So, but they said that will happen a lot anyway. It's just, that's what happens with Joseph. So, they increased his bisoprolol a little bit higher for him to see that will help. But yeah, so he's had it hard life.
Yeah. That you come out on the other side, though, you're doing well, aren't you?
Yeah, he is, isn't it? But even things like, you think there'd be support, like I said, in the schools for things like that. But I think this, like you said, also lack of maybe staff, like you said.
Yeah, understaffed.
Understaffed, yeah. Because if he's in a class of maybe 15 children with special needs and there's only 1 or 2 teachers, then they can't go around and see to everybody, can they?
No, they can't. No.
So I think that's what lacked for him.
You got anything to say about that, Link, Joe?
But did you enjoy school, Joe? Otherwise,
can you remember any of your friends' names from the school?
You don't remember the names? Oh gosh, forgot the little boy used to come to the house. Do you remember his name?
No, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, little African boy he used to play with.
So how were they with giving him his medication? Did they give him his medication when he was in school, or did he not need it during school?
Yeah, they have a nurse that's on duty every day. The nurse is there, so if he needed something like paracetamol or epilim, then they'd give it to him.
Right. Okay.
He did go on a week's trip with the school once, which was a good thing for him. he didn't cope too well. They kept ringing saying he wants to come home, but he managed to stay the whole week.
Yeah, hey, listen, it's your job, innit? It's your job to look after the you've got it for the week now. You
Exactly.
deal with it.
So you went canoeing, didn't you, Joe, and stuff? Do you remember that time?
Do you remember? So finishing high school, what did he go on to do after that?
So after finishing high school, he went. Well, there was a college. We took him to it, and I took him to it, and
Yeah.
he wouldn't cope with it. I think it was too noisy. It was it's the one near the police station, you know, the big college there.
North Trafford.
North Trafford,
Yeah.
But they have a unit, but obviously they're still around all the other people in the college as well. So it's too much for him. So he couldn't deal with that. So I had to take him out of there. And then I had to get kind of like one-to-one support for him from the house, get someone to come in and take him out and do things with him.
Yeah.
And that's where he is at the moment. He gets that one-to-one support.
So how would you say that the social worker side of things,
Oh God,
compared to how it was then, compared to how it is now, would you say there's been improvement, or would you say it's still where it was?
Still where it was. You still have to fight for everything.
Right.
Yeah. So if I want support for him, then I have to keep pestering, you know. But it's the only way to get something. And even today is the same.
You shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have to.
No,
should you? Like I said,
everyone should be entitled to the right support.
Exactly. So, and now I've got him again. I've got him a support worker. You know, so we've managed to sort all that out for him. But it's been a battle trying to get it all sorted, isn't it? So he gets 4 hours a week, which is not a lot really. So,
No.
But they're going to increase it once they know that he's happy with working with that 4 hours.
Right. Okay then.
So then that lady will come. She may take him to the shops or go for a walk, or eventually they're going to go on the bus ride together and just do, you know, normal things for him rather than just sitting in the house.
So, how would you say? Well, obviously, having a child who has autism is obviously it's stressful. Would you say that caused a lot of stress in your marriage, and did it have an effect on it? Would you say?
I would say so, yeah, definitely, because Joseph's very clingy to me anyway. So
Yeah.
obviously, you know, and for some reason, I don't know, he just couldn't connect with his dad. So I'm not quite sure why that was. No matter how we tried with him, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, which, you know, sometimes I felt I was a bit cruel because I tried forcing him to try and connect with his father, but it just didn't work for some reason. And today we just don't. Even now, I just don't know why that is. You know. But of course, his dad did try. You know, he's always there and he's always wanting to help him, but Josie just could not connect with him.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad on both sides.
Sad
like
on
you
both
said. Yeah, of
sides,
course it
isn't
is.
it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So anybody. So go on, you first.
like I said, it's not someone like Joseph. You can't always know the reason why, because he can't tell you like I don't like this person, or I don't like the way they talk too loud, or it could be something simple like that. Maybe he talks too loud, and it affects his hearing. I don't know. I'm just guessing at things at the moment.
Yeah.
But
anything to say yet, Joe? No.
So he's never really connected. I mean, he's connected with. He connects with a few people, like you said, with yourselves and Jade, and you know, and Adam and Naomi and Josh. But it's just certain people he won't connect with, which I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah, it's mad. So anybody who has had a recent diagnosis or might be feeling that their kid might be slightly to the autistic or on the spectrum, do you have any advice to give to them?
Well, yeah, as soon as you believe there's something, and go and, you know, go to the doctors, get as much help and support as you can. Don't leave it, you know, till later. Just move with it straight away. Get as much support as you can, because it is out there, but you do have to fight for it. And look out for other parents who are going through it with, because they'll be able to support you through it as well.
Yeah.
Don't do it alone. Never do it alone. It's bad. You know, it's traumatic as a parent to go through. You know, so never try and do it alone.
Yeah, it's understandable. So if you woke up tomorrow and you was the Prime Minister of the UK,
yeah,
what would be some of the things you would put in place to help with autism awareness?
Well, I'd just trying to get more centres available, really, more support, more understanding, like you said, maybe. It's hard to explain that one, isn't it?
Yeah, I just threw it out there,
yeah,
it's a bit
I
of a
know what you
tricky one,
mean,
isn't
but
it?
it is a tricky one Because like you said, it's might not even be the government, it could be just people themselves are not aware of it. And so it's how do you make it more aware I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure about that one actually.
It's difficult,
Yeah, it's a
isn't it?
difficult one that.
Would you say that people are more aware of it now than they were 20 years ago? 15 years ago?
I'd say so. I would say so, but there's always them ignorant people that are not. So, I mean, like you said, it's more open now, isn't it? People, if you said to someone, "Do you know somebody with autism?" They'll say, "Oh yeah, my
Yeah.
friend or a daughter or somebody's got it." Yeah. So, so it's more open, more aware, but people still are ignorant. Like if I take Joseph to the Trafford Centre, or anywhere that, kids like his age will look at him and stare and laugh and point like, "Oh, he's with his mum." Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and looks, but it's really sad because obviously he has to be with his mum. He can't go on his own, can he? So,
No, yeah, yeah.
which is something I've always wanted him to do, but he's not able to do it. So,
Yeah. Well, I saw on your phone you had a few points and
yes, the
yeah,
other.
anything you want to get out there while we're live?
So what I'm going to have to be facing in the next couple of years is also supported accommodation, the transition in age, isn't it? Because
Right,
obviously he's
yes.
26 now, and I'm getting older. So that's another age, something that I'm going to have to start working on with a social worker.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a big impact on me as well as Joseph
Yeah,
and all of us, isn't
understandably,
it?
yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's something that I'm going to have to talk to a social worker about in the future, because if I'm not well, then he's going to have to go somewhere, isn't he?
Yeah.
So he can't live on his own. So
So you don't, like I said, you watched the interview I had with my mate Kane and Ben, and like they were saying as well that they don't think that their son will ever be able to live on his own.
no,
And
they never will. No,
no,
you can have them as long as you can. Some people, as soon as the kids reach 14, 15, you say, "I can't cope with them anymore," and they go away. But as long as you can cope with them, keep them as long as you can. But there's going to be a state when they're going to have to go, aren't they?
yeah, eventually,
So,
sadly, you get
sadly, because we get older, and you got to think about Joseph's future. If I'm not here, then he needs somewhere where he's safe, isn't it?
So how would that look like? Would it be like an assisted living? Would he have his own place but assisted living, or would
Well, there's different places you can go. You can go to like a house, a 3-bedroom house where there's 3 adults and a carer that lives there with them,
right,
or you can be in a communal place where there's 30 people. It depends on the individual. Like with someone
right?
like
So yeah,
Joseph,
so the
it's better
individual
to be
needs.
somewhere quiet. Yeah. So that's what I'll be looking for something quiet for him.
And what do you think about that? Have you thought about this?
One day having to move, isn't it? Well, yeah, we talk about it. It's always no, no,
Yeah,
no.
well,
But
understandably. But
obviously, it's something he's going to have to deal with, and I'm going to have to deal with. Um, so that's the biggest step at the moment, and also for carers as well. The ones like me, we are looking after our kids. That it takes a lot out of us, and again, the support. There's not no support out there for carers. So if I put Joseph into the care system, it'd cost them 1,000, maybe 2,000 a week for them to look after him.
right,
But for a carer, they get £80 a week off the government to look after. So they can't work, but you get your £80, which is, what's that? It's nothing,
yeah,
is
it's
it?
nothing. It's
Exactly.
nothing.
But to put him into a care system, they're going to cost him £2,000. So it's like, again, they don't really think about carers and, the support that they need.
Yeah, well, I would argue. I think the whole mental health sector altogether kind of takes a back line.
Yeah, true.
They're happy to send millions and billions over to Ukraine for that nonsense, and happy to
True.
send money over to here, X and Y. But then
Exactly.
people over here, we've got a homeless crisis right now. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Mental health through the roof. Alcoholism's through the roof. If they spent more time on actually looking after their citizens and
Exactly.
not spending money on daftness here and there, people like Joseph would have more staffing needs, and he'd have
Exactly.
more.
So if he's got more staff, then I can go out to work. But because he can't, then he only gets 4 hours a week. So I can't really work it wouldn't bring me enough money in, would it? So
No.
I'm stuck in this rut of getting just £80 a week, which is rubbish, isn't it?
It's not enough, is it?
Exactly. Like you live on with 80, you got someone with special needs as well.
And it's worse because
So-
you could have someone who is an alcoholic or
Yeah,
someone
true.
who was a drug abuser, and they get more money.
They get more support. Exactly. They do.
And they know what they're going to spend the money on.
Yeah.
Why would you give someone who's an alcoholic more money than someone who has, I don't want to say, more like a mental disability?
Exactly.
'Cause
Or
the
someone
risk is.
who's overeaten, you know, they're obese and
Yeah,
they
obese.
get
They get all these
the
treatments.
cars and they get all the
Yeah, they get the
treatments, they
cars,
get
wheelchairs,
therapy, they get
stair lifts, and all this nonsense.
exactly.
Yeah.
They get therapy and they get counselling. And someone like myself who's looking after someone vulnerable, there's nothing out there.
No, you just kind of get parred off, don't you?
So you just get on with it, you know. Hush, hush, don't tell anyone what you're getting. 80 quid a week. Just get on with it.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Is there any other points you wanted to get
So
out?
yeah, that was one of them. Let's see what else we've got. So we've talked about the transitioning, supported accommodation. We've done that. Sleep issues as well is another big thing with people with autism. That you can go through a year where everything's great, and then a year later it can be like he's not sleeping, he's up all night long and wandering around the house. And so again, you know, what can you do in those situations? Doctors can offer you tablets to try and ease it, but Joseph's managed to get through without any medication. But again, it's straining on myself and him. So any parents that are going through that, you know, I believe they should go and speak to the doctor and get some support whichever way is possible, whether it's counselling or whether medication for yourself or for your son or daughter.
Right. Okay. That's
Don't
fair
go
enough.
through it alone.
Yep.
Again, I think that's chronic. We talked about epilepsy, chronic anxiety. He's got
Yeah,
that
we
as
covered
well.
that, yeah.
Talk that one.
So would you say a lot of autistic children, do you think, would have anxiety?
Yeah, well, they say it's part of their condition. Yeah, anxiety. It can be, but Joseph has it really bad though. He has the severe side of it.
I remember, even
Yeah.
to this day, sometimes it takes him 10 minutes to get out of the car and come in here. I
Exactly.
mean, he's done well getting out of the car, coming into the house, and in here. You've done well, Joe.
That is what I'm saying.
Yeah, credit
So
where it's due. You've done well.
there's days where I cannot get out of the house. He won't go out, even to the local shop. He'll say, "No, I'm not going." So I can't leave him on his own. So then I'm stuck in. So we're both stuck in this situation. And again, I've got a brother that's in the same situation. You know, he doesn't go out of the house at all. You know, but he said he's been diagnosed with autism. So maybe it could run in the family. I'm not sure. But
No, well, they do say it's genetic.
Yeah.
If one's got it, there's a high chance that.
So it could be, yeah, it could
Yeah.
be that. But he got diagnosed late anyway. So, yeah. So again, sleep. He's been stuck in the house a lot with him at the moment. So, but it's changed a little bit. I think that's everything covered in here. Minimal verbal. Oh, yeah. So he doesn't speak a lot. He can speak, as you know.
Yeah.
You've heard him, haven't you? So
Yeah.
he can speak, but he finds it difficult to speak, which is, again, we don't understand why. We've tried speaking to the social worker and counsellors about it, and they're saying that they want to help him, but they can't help him unless he's willing to talk.
Well, yeah, you can't help someone if you
So,
don't know what they're thinking or going through, can you?
Exactly. So again, it's that same situation. He's always been left on the side because there's nothing they can do. Whereas, you know, other people that got special needs might get more support because they're verbal,
Yeah.
but Joseph's not. So he's just like, well, we can't do anything for him. Sorry, you know, just have to let him go through it on his own, which is sad. Again, this is why I'm saying, you know, there needs to be more help out there really for all kinds of people with autism.
Yeah. There was a time when me and Jade went to the pub around the corner, and there was a woman, I don't know what her disability was. She was in a wheelchair, like one of those Stephen Hawking setups.
Oh yeah.
And she had a screen. And she had these icons on the screen, and she looked at the icon and she constructed sentences by looking at things on the screen.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know, obviously I know things like that don't come cheap, but, you know,
No, exactly.
for someone like you who has struggled with a non-verbal child, you know, if more money was thrown into things like that, then, you know, how much easier would that make?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Make life easier.
if you had a screen and you could just look at certain icons and you know what I mean, and tell you.
Exactly.
It could make things a lot easier.
So, but they do things like that in the school where they don't let them take them home with them, like, you know, so they'll use it in school if they want something. They'll point like electronic thing that says toilet or food.
Yeah.
But they're not allowed to take it home. So again, it was.
Yeah, well, you know, never know. In the future, these things might become
Maybe
more
it's changed
widely
now.
available.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe it's changed.
Yeah, what if
now.
you stop sending money to Ukraine and
Exactly.
sending all over the world on darkness? You know, maybe we could
Exactly.
have more things like that in place.
So yeah, it's a long journey, but you know, you never give up on anybody, do we? So that's the most important thing as well. You know, never give up.
Well, we'll call that an end anyway. We've covered enough of it.
Okay. Yeah,
For
that's
coming
fine.
through, Mum, and telling your story. I'm sure people will love it. Joseph, for being here, you've done well.
Hope it helps somebody.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank
We'll
you.
call that a day.